Thank y'all so much for being here. I know all of you have been involved in this process before of talking to prospective students, and as you can imagine, I get a lot of questions. That's what they pay me to do, and a lot of those are from female students who have questions about what their experience would be like at Beeson. And so we're just going to talk today about your particular experiences and how you would explain the Beeson experience to them. So Lindsay, let's just start with you. Tell me a little bit about what attracted you to Beeson. Why did you choose Beeson over another school?
I think overall I was most attracted to the fact that it's non-denominational. I grew up in a church, Southern Baptist church, and I enjoyed the church and really loved it. As I got older and went to church in college, and after college I continued in Southern Baptist tradition churches, and I found myself oftentimes meeting with girls that were not from my denomination. I sometimes had a hard time relating to them just because I didn't know how to answer questions that they had. Yeah. And so my first goal was to find a seminary that was going to be one that was non-denominational. And so there are a lot of them other than Beeson. Sure. And so I just kind of made a list of the ones that I knew of that were non-denominational. And just really, I came one time to visit Beeson one afternoon and fell in love with it from the moment I set foot.
I made the trip to be here, first of all, because I wanted a school that was accredited. Mm-hmm. That was very important to me. Just across the board, it was very important.
Being a teacher.
Yes. And my secondary decision, my secondary criteria was that it was non-denominational. Mm-hmm. Because I am a Messianic. I didn't want to attend a school where I was going to be indoctrinated to one way of thinking. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad that I chose Beeson, and I chose Beeson for those two reasons, and it was the right decision for me. Good. Yes, Beeson has been great for that.
Good. Mm-hmm. The interdenominational aspect was a huge point for me too, and additionally, the academic rigor of Beeson was important. I wanted a school that was unapologetically evangelical, but thoughtfully so. Yeah. So that was super important, and then the small numbers of the school so that I would know my classmates and my professors. I knew all these professors' names before I came to Beeson, but the fact that they would know my name too was pretty incredible.
Talk to me about male professors, male students in particular, and female too, but just how you as a female student have been mentored by and treated by particularly the male faculty and students here. I'd love that perspective.
I think for the most part it's sort of a non-issue in a positive way. Yeah. That you're really not treated any differently than anybody else. Good. It's just a big family and community. And I never ever have felt like I wasn't part of the club. and the girls, at Beeson, there's a strong knit community among the women.
For sure.
That's super unique and special.
I absolutely love Beeson. And I often say that I think Beeson is the one place where people don't realize in the state of Alabama who's in this building. Mm-hmm. And so when I realized that I'm being taught and mentored and by some of the best minds in religious thought, I'm just blown away. Yeah. But they're not only scholastical, but they're friendly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they care about what's going on in my life. And they care about what's going on with me as a person and my spiritual journey. And I felt that strongly here, and I'm very glad that I'm here for that. And with my male peers, it's been much the same. And I feel good. When issues come up, and they do sometimes, and we have some conversations about whether women should be in certain positions, I think they come up in a positive way, but it helps to sharpen me and helps me see. It's made me think about who I say I am and make my election sure. I know who I am, and I feel good about it, and I can stand and say, this is who I am, and this is what God has called me to do, and I'm secure in that.
I even think that's part of, the kind of whole spirit of Beeson is that we recognize we're interdenominational. People are going to have different views on different things. Yes. Right. But we engage and talk with each other very congenially, and, you come away friends still at the end, even if you disagree on the minutiae of whatever issue it is.
Right. I agree. I think that you learn more sometimes by just having conversation. Yeah. And I'm thankful for people, both professors. There are professors that I may not necessarily agree with. And I remember in undergrad especially, I would a lot of times try to write my papers so that they would agree with the professor, just so I would get a better grade. But I realized that really wasn't the purpose of it, and I've learned that even more so here, that the professor wants me to write what I believe. And my paper is not going to sway them one way or another. Their beliefs are pretty firm, and that's fine, and I'm thankful for students that are appreciative of one belief over another, or one just kind of ideal, and I think that's good. I love being a part of a Beeson Women's Club. I feel like when in college I was surrounded by women, and I didn't feel, sometimes I do feel like, oh, there are a lot of guys here and there aren't many women here, but I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I really don't. And the fact of the matter is, most of us are going to be working in areas where there are going to be predominantly male.
That's indicative of.
And so I think it just helps you get the chance to really kind of learn how to deal in a culture maybe that's a little more male driven.
I grew up with more brothers, and I was always kind of like the tomboy, hanging out with the guys, even through school, undergrad, high school, I was always with the guys. Beeson has been my first experience where I've actually come in with the women and felt like I was a part and been comfortable and love it. So I love the sisterhood here, but it's new to me because that's not my natural draw. But Beeson's been really good for that, and not because of feeling isolated from the guys. It's just been a part of the community. It's part of who we are.
Tell me a little bit about preaching. Everybody in the MDiv program here, regardless of who you are, takes preaching. It's intimidating for every student because we just have these fantastic, famous people who teach it. But just tell me a little bit about your experience there, just in general. What is that like at Beeson? And I know, Hayden, you're out at this point, so you can tell us from that perspective, but just how you've learned in that process.
The preaching courses were my very favorite at Beeson because I felt like I waited till my third year to take them, and I felt like all of the curriculum that I'd had up until that point was pointing towards the pulpit. So, all the language courses and the history and doctrine courses and the interpretation, everything was pointing towards, what do we do with this? How do we communicate this? Because you can learn all the things, but if you can't edify the body of Christ with it, then, what are we learning it for? So preaching courses, prepare you to teach in all kinds of aspects, everything that you've learned. Carlia and I had our first preaching class together, and it's daunting, preaching in front of your peers and that feedback and everything. But it was certainly the highlight of Beeson for me because I learned how to integrate everything that I had learned together and how to present it in a way that people can understand the gospel.
That's good. I remember walking into that class, the preaching class, and even thinking about going in, I was overwhelmed. And I kept thinking, just drop this class. Drop this class. Because it was my second year. So I'm thinking, okay, what are you doing? And I went with a friend who's, take it with me. Sure, naively. But I'm so glad I did because it was a challenge. It's not a cakewalk, but to be the recipient of so much attention. And our professor gave a lot of attention and a lot of hands-on feedback and hands-on preparation just to teach us to go through the steps of preparing a sermon and putting that together with classes like Dr. Ross's classes where he's talking about the importance of really rightly dividing the word and rightly doing our studies and paying that attention, making it important. Those things have worked together for me and will serve me for a lifetime. And I'm very grateful. I was scared.
Sure.
But I don't think I'll ever get to the point now where I take preaching lightly or preparation to bring a sermon lightly because our preaching classes just took that away. And I grew up around preachers and I didn't really see them studying a lot. But I understand the importance of study for the body of Christ and my responsibility as a minister to the body of Christ. And I take it very seriously, but I'm very grateful for the preparation I've had in preaching classes.
Finally, if a female prospective student in particular asked you, give me the real skinny, what is the Beeson experience like for women and how has that been for you? What would you tell them?
I had the opportunity to meet with a female who's here now last spring, and I just told her it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. You know, I mean, some of it will be harder than others. I had a business background, about zero experience in writing papers and reading the material that we read. But if you're called to Beeson, the Lord will equip you. Yeah. And it's a great place to learn. It's a great place to really get to know yourself and be prepared. You know, I think of how I'm going to be prepared to teach when I graduate in May. It just kind of overwhelms me a little bit.
Yeah. It should.
But I know that I could have gone somewhere else that may have been a lot easier.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful every day that I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm thankful too, because I could have gone somewhere and it could have been a lot easier, or I could have done an online class. Because as you mentioned, Sherry, I drive a distance to get here every day. But I would tell a prospective female student that if the Lord has called her to seminary and He's put her eyes on Beeson, that she should let her heart follow.
My whole life changed when I came to Beeson, because my husband and I moved here from Arkansas, and for Beeson. This is the only place I wanted to go to seminary, because I felt like it was the best place for me. And so, you know, uprooted our whole lives to come here, and we would not have traded this for anything. The way that the Lord, you know, Cody is not a student here, but even the way that the Lord has equipped and prepared him through Beeson has been unbelievable. I'm just beyond grateful for my time here.
Thank you. Well, thank you all very much for helping today. You've all been involved in this process before and talking to prospective students, and I appreciate you being here today. I love you all. Thank you.